Thames Valley Police, Suzanne speaking. How can I help?
Yes, my love. My daughter's been missing for 48 hours. We have just been up to Milton Keynes to her partner, and he says he doesn't know where she is.
Okay, all right. Well, can I take your daughter's name, please?
It's Natalie Hemming.
We'll move on to the account of Bevan. Bevan said he went downstairs when he heard the noise and peeked through a gap in the door. He thought it was Mum being sick. He said it was really loud, like thunder, and it sounded like 3 glasses smashing. And he describes the big red rug in the lounge being missing. Have you removed a rug from your house recently?
No comment.
And if so, why?
No comment.
Milton Keynes, England. Natalie Hemming was 31, a mother of 3, friendly, bubbly, the kind of person who loved clothes and shopping and taking her kids along with her. She had a daughter from a brief earlier relationship before she met Paul Hemming in 2007. For a while, life with Paul looked normal from the outside. They went on to have 2 more children together. Though they never married, Natalie eventually took his surname. A compromise, her family later said, after years of him promising a wedding and never following through. Paul was controlling almost from the start. When Natalie got a job at a Mercedes dealership, he told her he'd rather pay her to stay home. He proposed and set wedding dates, 3 times by her family's count. Natalie bought a dress. She told friends she was finally getting married. Each time, Paul called it off. There was violence too. In 2007, Natalie reported to police that after an argument, Paul threw her phone at her head, an injury serious enough to need hospital treatment. In 2013, she told police he had poked her in the eye and struck her over the head with a bottle. That same year, she finally left. She packed up her 3 children and moved to Yorkshire, near her sister, into a rented house. It was so lovely, and we were all so happy, her sister Joanne later said. We thought she'd finally made the break. It didn't last. 4 months later, Paul talked his way back into her life. Natalie moved back to Milton Keynes and back in with him. Her family was devastated. Life went on that way for several more years. Paul charming and sociable to the outside world, but volatile and possessive at home. By early 2016, Natalie had quietly begun planning to leave again. For good this time. She told her sister she was excited to start over. "I'm really going to do it this time," she said. Sunday, May 1st, 2016. Natalie had spent the weekend visiting her mother in Hemel Hempstead. That Sunday afternoon, she left her mother's house to drive home to Milton Keynes. With no word from her daughter in 2 days, Natalie's mother reported her missing.
Thames Valley Police, Suzanne speaking. How can I help?
Yes, my love. My daughter's been missing for 48 hours. We have just been up to Milton Keynes to her partner, and he says he doesn't know where she is.
Okay, all right. Well, can I take your daughter's name, please?
It's Natalie Hemming.
She told police she was worried and voiced concerns directly about Paul. Officers visited the home on Alderney Avenue. Paul told them he'd last spoken to Natalie on May 1st, that her phone was off, and that his calls weren't getting through. He then offered an explanation. He claimed Natalie had gone out with colleagues 2 nights earlier, come home saying she'd been raped by one of them, and that she'd left in the night to clear her head at a friend's house. Too ashamed, he said, to go to police herself. Thames Valley Police launched a search, appealing publicly for sightings of Natalie.
Well, if I recap first on Natalie's disappearance, she was last seen on Sunday after going to visit her mum in Hemel Hempstead. Now, she's not been seen since then, and that's why there is so much concern over her welfare. Natalie is a mum of 3. She, as I say, lives in Milton Keynes, and she's not been in contact with any member of her family since. She's not touched her bank accounts, and detectives here today say that is ringing alarm bells.
We are extremely concerned now about Natalie. She hasn't been in contact with her children. She hasn't been in contact with her family. She hasn't turned up at work. These are all the normal things that we would have expected her to have done.
As part of the investigation, detectives pulled CCTV and traced a black Ford S-Max, Paul's car, using automatic number plate cameras. The footage placed the vehicle traveling out of Milton Keynes late on the night of May 1st down toward Aylesbury and back again in the early hours of the next morning. Paul had told officers he never left the house that night. Separately, as detectives worked backward through Natalie's final days, other footage surfaced. CCTV from a hotel showing her with a man who wasn't Paul. Following it up, police identified him, a colleague from the Mercedes dealership named Simon. The two had recently begun a relationship, and Natalie had spent her final Saturday night with him before returning home that Sunday. When investigators asked Paul about Simon, he made a shocking claim. He said that he had been home all day on Sunday. When Natalie had returned that evening, she was acting oddly and wasn't her usual self. She then confessed to Paul that she had met up with someone from work and gone back to his house. She then said she had been raped by this man and needed space to process everything. Paul said he then went to bed at around 9 p.m. and when he got up the next morning, Natalie was gone. But police knew from looking at the messages between Simon and Natalie, this just didn't match up with what Paul had claimed, because Natalie messaged Simon that she started falling in love with him, and they also kissed each other. It was his young son who spoke. The boy told officers that on the night of May 1st, he had woken up, gone downstairs, and seen his mother's body wrapped in a rug. Paul Hemming was arrested. He was charged with murder the same week. Natalie's body would not be found for another 18 days. With Paul in custody and denying everything, the investigation shifted to finding Natalie. Search teams combed the area around Milton Keynes and beyond.
Listen, you've told us that you did not leave your house Sunday night into Monday.
Correct.
Yet your car does leave the house. What was your car doing out at that time?
No comment.
Okay.
What you're saying is that I have killed my partner. I have disposed of her body. I have tidied the house, made it look pristine, managed to cook them dinner and many more things without them knowing.
That's exactly what we're saying, Paul.
Impossible.
Okay. And at exactly 8 p.m, I'll conclude this interview.
Detectives leaned on the ANPR trail from the black Ford S-Max, which had pointed them toward Hertfordshire. But for 18 days, there was nothing. No body, no confirmation. Just a family waiting, and a suspect in a cell giving them nothing more. Sunday, May 22nd, 2016. A man named John Golby was out cutting a meadow at Tom's Hill, near Chandler's Cross, Hertfordshire, using a quad bike towing a grass cutter. As he worked, he caught the smell of something rotting. His first thought was that it might be a deer that had died in the undergrowth. He stopped to look closer. What he found instead was dark hair, then arms, then fingers. It was Natalie, discovered in a hidden ditch roughly 30 miles from her own front door, 30 miles from the children who had been sleeping upstairs the night she disappeared. With the body now recovered, forensic teams went to work. Natalie's remains were badly decomposed after 3 weeks outdoors, which meant the exact cause of death could never be conclusively established. But the injuries that could be identified told their own story. A fractured skull and a fractured arm. The arm consistent with a defensive wound raised to protect herself. Back at the house on Alderney Avenue, forensic examiners returned to the living room. They found 13 small spots of blood on the coffee table, near where Natalie's son had seen her wrapped in the rug. The rug itself was missing from the house entirely. When police had asked Paul about it earlier, he'd claimed the family dog had soiled it.
We'll move on to the account of Evan. Evan said he went downstairs when he heard the noise and peeked through a gap in the door. He thought it was Mum being sick. He said it was really loud, like thunder, and it sounded like 3 glasses smashing. And he describes the big red rug in the lounge being missing. Have you removed a rug from your house recently?
No comment.
And if so, why?
No comment.
A red rug. Now this rug is missing from Natalie's house. and I believe it's very significant in relation to her disappearance. Now, my appeal today is for anybody who has seen a rug or similar rug discarded anywhere, particularly within Aylesbury, into Oxford, Milton Keynes, over into the border of Bedfordshire, that's seen that, has picked it up, moved it, to come forward and speak to us.
Paul Hemming, 43, was formally charged with the murder of Natalie Hemming, along with preventing her lawful burial and obstructing the coroner. He pleaded not guilty to murder, but admitted manslaughter. Prosecutors refused to accept that plea. The case went to trial at Luton Crown Court in October 2016. Prosecutor Simon Russell Flint, QC, laid out the Crown's case. That on the night of May 1st, Paul Hemming had learned Natalie was planning to leave him for someone else, and launched what he called a calculated attack, striking and killing her in the living room while their children slept upstairs. He then wrapped her body in the missing rug, carried or dragged her from the house, and drove her 30 miles to dump her in Woodland. The jury heard about the affair and about the couple's final weekend. Natalie's night away, her text message about falling in love, and the CCTV that placed her clearly outside the marriage in her last hours alive. They also watched CCTV from the day after the killing, Paul at Whipsnade Zoo with the children, behaving as though nothing had happened. He wept in the dock as it played. Jurors heard that when police first interviewed him, Paul said, "I deny all allegations of murdering Natalie Hemming or causing her harm." Confronted later with the 13 blood spots on the coffee table, he said they could have come from anyone in the family. He was also overheard in his holding cell saying, "I suppose I'm going to be charged with murder now," a remark he later refused to acknowledge. When Paul finally took the stand, his account changed again. He said Natalie had confessed to the affair, and that in a moment of anguish, he'd thrown a heavy imitation Fabergé egg made of jade, which struck her head and sent her falling into the coffee table. "I couldn't believe I had done it," he told the jury. "I just thought, I'm in trouble. How am I going to explain it to the kids upstairs? So then I thought, I am going to cover this up." Asked why he didn't call for help, he said, "Because I knew I had killed her." He denied ever intending to kill her and denied being violent toward her in the days before. The jury didn't believe it was an accident. Paul Hemming was found guilty of murder. In November 2016, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 20 years. Natalie's 3 children were taken in by 2 of her sisters, growing up alongside their cousins. Her son, the boy who had woken that night and seen his mother wrapped in the rug, was, according to family, the most deeply affected. Years later, relatives said he had come to fully accept that his father was responsible for his mother's death. A 2020 domestic homicide review found that, although Natalie had only contacted police 3 times over 9 years regarding abuse, she had disclosed enough to professionals to indicate the relationship was violent, and that authorities had missed opportunities to intervene.